Hi everybody, my name is Bob Saunders, and a few weeks ago I put online a video concerning whether aliens made us, genetically modified us, or whether archangelic beings made us. Okay. Now today I'd like to go on with the story about aliens and try and discuss where they come from. Now, straight away I have to say that I don't think anybody knows. Even the military people that work with these aliens, the tall whites and the greys, and work with them every day, I don't think they know where they come from, because they systematically lie. Now, that's the first clue, because there are certain spiritual laws that apply to us if we want to walk a spiritual path, and that these aliens, if they are spiritually minded people, they would need to conform to these laws. And the first law is always tell the truth, never lie. Now, if these beings are lying, they're breaking that law, and I don't think spiritual beings would break any spiritual laws. That's the first little clue. Now, another clue is that they say that they come from planets, from Sirius, from Zeta Reticuli, from the Pleiades, light years and light years away, but from planets. But then they say, would we mind stop blowing up atom bombs here on Earth because it interferes with them? Well, now, if they're on a planet light years away from here, I can't possibly imagine that that us blowing up at, oh excuse me, a cat's just jumped on my lap. We'll go along with her until she has enough and gets off. I can't imagine that us blowing up atom bombs would have any effect on people living on a planet light years away. So when we question them, they say, oh no, you interfere with dimensions. Okay, now, what are the dimensions? We live on planet Earth here, which is a third dimension, if you like. Then around us is an etheric realm, another little dimension. I don't think they come from there. There's only elves and gnomes and things like that live in that dimension. And then there's the lower fourth dimension, where nasty creatures live. Then there's a higher fourth dimension, where we go after death, and where your guides and my guides live. Now, I was trained years ago to be able to contact these guides, and I've spoken to them about this atom bomb problem, and they say no, it doesn't affect them at all. They're in such a high dimension, in the high fourth, that it doesn't bother them. Well, now, if it's bothering these people, these aliens that come here, if they're not in the etheric realm, the only other realm that they could be in, I think, is the lower third. They can't, if they're not, if the higher fourth, the lower fourth dimension, if the higher fourth dimension is not bothered, and I'm sure after that even higher, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and finally the eighth plane, if none of those are affected, all that's left is the lower third. Now, I can assure you that that is where all the nasty spirits and creatures come from. So, do these aliens come from that lower fourth dimension? Okay, I don't know. I'm just raising the point. Now, I'd like to talk about a gentleman who claims he's an alien living on a spaceship. He claims, I won't mention his name, but I'm sure you'll quickly recognise who he is. He claims he's half grey and half something else, and he speaks through a medium that goes into a trance. And I must say, he gives an incredible amount of wisdom and information, very advanced knowledge. He's a very knowledgeable person. But he says he's a hybrid grey, but he doesn't say hybridized with what. Now, if you ask me who my parents were on both sides, so to speak, I could tell you. I wouldn't hide it. But he just says, "Oh no, I'm a hybrid grey." Okay, and apparently he says that he lives in a dimension somewhere. Okay, I know that he mentions sometimes he lives on a planet, but I've actually heard him say that he lives in a dimension. Well, I suppose you could say that we all live in a dimension. This is the third dimension, but we're on a planet, so I'm not quite sure what he's talking about, because as far as I'm aware, in the astral realms, that there aren't any actual planets as such. You're either in the astral realms or you're not. You're in a dimension or you're not. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that, and the fact that I saw him talking. A lady asked him a question about whether she'd been abducted and subjected to these horrific experiments that they do on these spaceships. And he laughed and he said, yes, you've been abducted a number of times and you're going to be abducted again in the future, as if it was something funny. Well, now, I don't know about you, but if people here on Earth abducted people and subjected them to horrific experiments, we try and take them to the Court of Human Rights. But this didn't seem to bother him at all. He thought it was funny. And he said, oh yes, I'm looking forward to the day when everybody on Earth will become a grey hybrid, like me. Well, I don't know about you, I don't want to be a grey hybrid. I don't want to be hybridised with anything. I'm quite happy to be what I am, okay? Another point, it worries me where these people are coming from. Now, a number of people have had experiences where they've been lying in bed asleep and they suddenly wake up and they see creatures in their room. And quite often, and this is the point I want to come to, quite often they wake up completely terrified, paralysed with the most terrible fear. Okay? And then you hear of these black-eyed children, and when people open the door and these children say, please can we come in, we want to use your phone or whatever, the thing that hits the person who opens the door is fear. Well, now, I don't normally go into the lower third because it's a place that really no normal person would want to go. But I have dipped my toes into it a little bit, just out of interest to find out what really is going on in there. And as soon as you open that door and go into that lower third, you're hit with the most terrible fear. It's a paralysing, all-consuming fear. It's unbelievable. It's something that you need to experience in order to understand it. Oh, the cat's gone down, thank you. Now, I saw a video not too long ago where a gentleman was saying that the American military had captured a little grey alien who normally would communicate with just thoughts, and they'd fitted a box on him, a box of some sort, that enabled him to communicate with people. It translated into English his thoughts, and at the end of the video the gentleman put online a sample of this sound that the creature was making, and what it was a horrifying screeching sound, okay, that just went on and on and on. Now, I've got some programs in our computers that enable us to play around with sound, and what I did was I slowed it down and I reduced the frequency down until it was understandable to me. And what this poor little creature was saying, he was screaming at the top of his voice over and over again, fear, 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 fear. Now, although he was although he was in a military base somewhere, these are called EBENs. They're little robot creatures, and they're controlled by other creatures, other beings that you don't see. But apparently these beings project that fear onto these poor little robot creatures, and that we know as greys, and terrify the life out of them. Now, that's not a very spiritual thing to do, is it? So I'm just wondering if, when people wake up in their bedroom and they're paralysed with fear, and that fear exists in the lower fourth dimension, is that actually where they're coming from? It's just another clue and another thought, because I can't verify any of this. Okay, now the last bit I want to talk about I found quite fascinating, and it's a story a gentleman told on YouTube that two people, I don't think the people knew each other, but two people were abducted and taken onto the same spaceship, where they were subjected to the usual horrible routines, what they do, the tests and so on. And then individually they were taken into two separate rooms where there were a number of beings lined up, and the boss man in the middle showed them individually a hologram of the human brain, and he said to them, show me where your God spirit is. Okay, and obviously these people couldn't tell him, because they know they're alive. We all know that we have this God spirit that connected to us, otherwise we wouldn't be alive. But they couldn't tell him, and these two gentlemen that were interrogating the two victims got really peeved with that. They got really annoyed apparently, and they're desperately searching for where our spirit of God is. Well, now think about that for a moment. That means that these creatures, they're tremendously advanced in comparison to us, but they haven't got a clue about the God spirit. Now, anybody that studied this knows that when the Big Bang happened, everything that on Earth, everything everywhere in the universe was created by this thing called God, and this tiny God spirit was put in association with every atom of everything everywhere in the universe. So my body and yours is a mass of atoms, and inside, or attached to, in association is a better term, in association with that is the God particle repeated over and over and over again. Now, that's what makes us alive. As well as we've got an overall consciousness with this God spirit attached to it. But now these creatures, these beings, apparently don't have that, or they've got no knowledge of it. So once again, where on earth, come here you, if the cat wants to come up again, where on earth are they coming from? What are they doing? You know, I can't understand that, because if they're made by God, they would have the God spirit attached to them, the same as you and I have. So where on earth are they coming from? Just a total mystery to me, and I don't know. If you've got any points of view on the subject, I'd appreciate you telling me, because I'm completely lost with the whole thing. But I really would like to know where they come from. Okay, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you again another day. Say goodbye, Myrtle. Okay, bye.